everyone. It's 6:30. I will call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. A few housekeeping items. The chairman of this board is Chris Shepard, who's joining us online tonight. I'm the vice chair, Devin Batchelder. Since I'm here in person, I'll be serving as chair for tonight's meeting. The first thing on our agenda is correspondence, visitors, and public comment. So I just want to let everyone know, if you'd like to speak tonight, there is a sign-up sheet. There's one here on this table. I believe one's been going around. So I'll give folks a minute or two to get on that list. My goal tonight is to ensure that everyone who wants an opportunity to speak has that opportunity. So start with that sign-up sheet. For the folks who are joining us online, I don't see any guests on there.
It looks like there's just three, just them.
Because of the number we have, we'd like to make comments. We will put a time limit on tonight, 2 minutes, I think should do it and keep us within the 30 minutes that we've allotted. And just a reminder that public comment periods are not a question and answer session. It's not a dialogue, it's your chance to address the community and the board and say what you'd like to say. I know a lot of folks here, and I know we can do this respectfully even though we disagree. And one point of clarification on where we are in the process. So during the meeting last week on August 10th, we had warned an article to discuss and vote on whether or not to accept the guidance from the Vermont Department of Health and the Agency of Education. During that meeting, we did vote on that, and we did vote to accept that. So that has occurred already, and there's not an item on tonight's agenda to discuss or vote on that. That guidance can be found at education.vermont.gov/COVID-19 if you'd like to read that in detail. So I'll start with correspondence that we received through email. If there's any that I missed here, board members, please speak up. We received an email from Kelly Campbell of Swanton supporting that decision that was made to follow that guidance. We received an email from Elizabeth Williams, also supportive of that decision. We received an email from Aaron Bordeaux supporting that decision. We received an email from Megan Barrett supporting that decision, and we received an email from Aaron Gagne supporting that decision. Is there any correspondence that I may have missed? All right. And just one comment I want to say, I know that folks disagree on this issue around whether our kids should be wearing masks. There's one common thread that I've seen in everything, whether you're for or against. That common thread is that everyone is trying to do what's best for their kids and for the kids in these schools. So we may disagree on the course of action, but we have a common goal. So as we talk about this and discuss it, and we make comments here to our broader community, not just to the board, please remember that.
Devin, Chris is raising.
I see Chris Shepard's raising his hand. Go ahead, Chris.
To your the list of emails that you hear me now?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I had two more emails, one from Kristen Wright, and then I also have one from a Stephanie Gingras, supporter of mass decision. Is that in your list?
All right. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to grab the sign sheet. And please speak up. I'm going to ask those who are coming up for public comment to come to this table. We have a microphone here so that the TV cameras can pick up your comments. We want to make sure that folks are able to hear. So I'll just go through the list. Steve Martel.
First thing, I'd like to amend your 2-minute time limit. Is that possible? I take it this is the mic?
Yeah, that's the mic. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak tonight, Steve. So we're gonna use the 2-minute time limit.
That mic is only for the chair, so the crowd can hear it, and that's that.
I'm gonna hang on to it.
So they need to hear it.
Okay, due to the 2-minute time limit, I'm going to paraphrase some of what I'm saying here. My name is Steve Martel. I've been a lifelong resident of Swanton and a graduate of MVU, class of 1974.
We can't hear you.
Okay. Basically, I'm here to oppose the mask mandate voted upon at the August 12th board meeting. There is zero scientific basis for requiring masking of children in our schools. Doesn't make them safer at all. We've never required masks for the seasonal flu, which is much more likely to kill children every year than COVID is. Doctors from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and Tufts Children's Hospital have listed many serious things that can go wrong with having kids wear masks. It can cause acne, skin problems, distracted from learning, carbon dioxide buildup in the blood, causing pathogens to develop on the mask once they become wet. Carbon dioxide buildup, and the possible psychological harm of widespread masking is an even greater worry. Facial expressions are integral to human connection, particularly for young children who are only learning how to signal fear, confusion, and happiness. Covering a child's face mutes these nonverbal forms of communication and can result in robotic and emotionless interactions, anxiety, and depression. I looked up the CDC numbers for kids' deaths caused by COVID for those less than 18 years old, and it shows more kids have died from the seasonal flu in 2019 and 20 than have died from COVID last year. The number of kids who contact COVID is quite low, and those who do contact COVID, their immune system naturally fights off the virus with little or no symptoms. So the stats show that COVID-related deaths in children are not too much different than that of the flu, yet we never wore a mask to stop the flu ever before. What is the use of having a board if we are just going to defer the judgment of the state and the CDC, both of which are more politically motivated in their guidance rather than science motivated? That is not local control. My son has been excited all summer long to go back to school at MVU this fall. Now he finds out he has to wear a mask, and now he says he does not want to go back to school. The emotional and psychological issues that you will be putting on our kids through this mask mandate are on your shoulders. Do not defer to the state. Masks pose a far greater threat to our children than COVID does. The mask mandate is nothing short of psychological abuse. Statistical data does not show the need for masks in our schools. Schools have no business in promoting mask mandates. Our basic freedoms should not be taken from us by the CDC, the state, or by this board. I should not have to come to this board to beg for my children and grandchildren to be able to breathe fresh air. I ask this board to please reconsider your vote on August 12th on this mask requirement issue. I'm only going to close with this quote by Anna Gala. What is right for you may be not right for me. What is right for me may not be right for you. But what is not right for either of us is to be stripped of the freedom to choose what is right for ourselves.
Thank you, Steve. Chelsea Lumbra.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chelsea Lumbra. I'm a mom of two and a resident of Franklin. I want to thank you for the time this evening. We appreciate it. I also want to take a moment to address the elephant in the room, and that is it's become very clear to all of us through statements made by members of this board, as well as principals today as people are going back to school, that our efforts are falling on deaf ears, that nothing any of us say here today will impact anything that you do. And we want you to know we hear you, we will continue to fight, and we are not going away. Prior to becoming a stay-at-home mom, I worked for court diversion. I also am a family services worker for the Department of Children and Families. It has always been important to me to fight for the rights of children, to ensure they have a voice, that they are safe, supported, and their well-being is prioritized. That's why I'm speaking here today. I firmly believe that masking children is a violation of their rights, and it's an attack on their well-being. In a recent study by Frank Drunick, it was determined that if just 3.2% of a surgical mask were open, the efficacy of the mask goes down to 0. Very few people wear a mask correctly. In fact, some of you here probably are not.
Nobody has the correct mask on right now. Nobody.
Most children aren't coming to school in a surgical mask. Most are cotton or handmade, further reducing the efficacy. There's an argument that masks help to reduce aerosol transfers, and that's quite simply just not the case. Mandatory masking in schools is a major threat to a child's development. It ignores the essential needs of a growing child. The well-being of children and young people is highly dependent on the emotional connection they have with others. Masks create a threatening and unsafe environment where it becomes difficult to have that emotional connection. In addition to the developmental effects, the pandemic and the mandates have indeed affected our children. We're tired of hearing, well, the kids were fine. They're not. We beg to differ. According to the American Institute for Economic Research, emergency room visits for mental health issues such as anxiety for children 5 to 11 increased by nearly 25%, and 31% for children ages 12 to 17 from April to October. In the CDC's most recent guidance from August 4th regarding masks for children, they indicate the primary factors to consider include the level of community transmission, vaccine coverage, and the strain on the healthcare system. Per the Vermont Department of Health, as of August 18th, there were 8 new cases of COVID in Franklin County. 75.2% of our county is vaccinated, and the local hospitals do not report a crisis. Since the start of COVID-19 in Vermont, per the Department of Health, there have been 3 children hospitalized as a result of COVID. 3. It would seem appropriate to recommend that children, based on our local factors in the CDC guidance, do not need to be subjected to a mask mandate at this time. It would also seem appropriate to continue to monitor those factors and leave their room for discussion. When asked...
Your time, Chelsea. You can give you a chance to wrap it up.
I'm just going to leave you with this quote. Children begin by loving their parents. As they grow, they judge them. Sometimes they forgive them. This generation will have much to forgive of us. Let's not add to the list.
Thank you, Chelsea. Christina Valente.
Good evening. My name is Christina Valente, and I reside in Franklin with my partner Scott and 6 of our 10 children. As of this school year, we have a senior in MVU and a child in 1st through 5th grade at Franklin Central School. I know you're all aware of the reason we're here, but I want to take the time to share my input on the situation. Nelson Mandela said it best when he stated, "There is no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children." In my opinion, we're abusing our children by enforcing this. That being shared, let me tell you why I'm so passionate about masks being made a choice. Imagine, if you will, a 5-year-old that suffers from ADHD, ADD, PTSD, RAD, speech issues, as well as requiring an IEP for multiple learning disabilities that include dyslexia, among other things. Now envision these children after a year of having to wear a mask. Speech is not improved because they can't see anyone's mouth to be able to pronounce and enunciate correctly. They're unable to read at the correct level because with the mask it's hard to understand them, and so sometimes no one knows what they're saying at all. Wearing masks also increases anxiety levels, fears of the unknown, sleeping and nightmares, as well as physical things like head and tummy aches, all of which we have worked tirelessly for the past 5 years to eradicate from them due to their start in life. These 5 are my children. They were all born addicted to some sort of drug and or alcohol, which upped their chances of needing special care. These 5 have come very far in 5 years since we adopted them, and this past year we honestly saw a backslide. The only reason they were flourishing in school was the incredible Franklin Central School community and the tireless efforts of the entire school staff who work with and tutored our children. I can sit here and spout off statistics, but I'll instead use cold hard facts from the CDC, the WHO, and a few other reputable sources. First, children under 18 account for 9% of COVID cases, but only 0.2% of deaths. Obviously, these numbers increase with the age brackets, but the 50 and older with 1 to 3 comorbidities, such as obesity, hypertension, metabolic, and cardiovascular diseases, account for 69.990%. As of August 17th, there was 357 newly reported cases with 0 deaths. And as of today, August 18th, in the United States, there was 38,075,922 cases of COVID reported. Of those, 641,377 resulted in death, which is less than 2%. and 30,341,886 recovered, which is 98%. I'm asking as a mother, taxpayer, and a human being that masks be made optional. This is cruel and unjust treatment of our children and their rights as my body, my choice. What we're saying to them is they're only allowed that privilege if it adheres to the rules that are being made up as we go along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kristen. Kim Delorme.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Delorme and I reside in Highgate Springs with my partner Michael, who is out of town for work but would be here if he could, and our two school-aged children that attend Highgate Elementary. I first want to make it clear I am not an argumentative person, nor is Michael. Michael is a small business owner and I am a federal employee. We are two full-time working parents. We are the type of parents that want to let the teachers teach and step in if there's a problem. With that being said, we would not be doing our job as parents if we let another year go by and not rise up for our children. Last year we sat and waited. We followed the rules. We wore masks, we distanced, and promises of a normal 2021 and 2021 school year. Last year was so hard. I'm not here to whine and complain how awful my family had it. I know we all had it, we're pretty much in the same boat. I want to start with the beginning of 2020. It started as a normal year. Our daughter attended pre-K at school and our son was at our in-home daycare full-time. We kept hearing about this virus, but not to fret, it isn't in the US yet. Then March hit, the world shut down for what was supposed to be 14 days to flatten the curve. And here we are 18 months and still counting. We kept our kids home for 10 weeks, following the rules and keeping everyone safe, while both Michael and I continue to work. September 2020 was our daughter's first year of kindergarten. It's supposed to be one of the most exciting years, right? We went school shopping and got her all ready for the first day. That morning we arrived to the school where her father and I dropped her off at the back parking lot of Highgate Elementary. We gave her a big hug and a kiss and said, "Have the best day ever. You will do amazing, we love you, and we cannot wait to see you when you're done." She quickly slipped on her mask and just like that, she was out the truck door, walking to her first masked up adult she saw to have her temperature taken, and off to the first day of kindergarten she went. We pulled away and I looked at Michael and I said, "What is going on? We couldn't walk our firstborn child into the first day of school." I felt so sad the whole day. You know the feeling of a failing parent? Yeah, I had that feeling. As the year progressed, we started to fight daily with her to go to school. She simply did not want to wear a mask, and she was bored, not academically, but socially. She sat in the same room every single day. She was taught to read and to write in that room. She ate in that room. She did all her enrichment classes in that room. And sometimes when it was too cold or rainy, she had recess in that room. She had to sit 3 feet apart from her newly made friends and do side-by-side play at 5 and 6 years old. What kind of school day is this for kids of any age? The teachers in my daughter's class and the principal were less than amazing. Were anything less than amazing, sorry. They did the best they could do with the year that was given to them. Everyone here understands that. And quite frankly, I don't think any of us are here to debate about how the teachers did. We all know many educators that are just as frustrated as we are about this. Both of our children are classified as a child with a disability. They both see Highgate's pre-K and the school's SLP. Again, nothing but great things to say about the SLPs we work with. Our son did his speech at home. He did not wear a mask, but our SLP did, and he did okay with it. Our daughter is another story. She is our firstborn. She is a sweet and kind little girl. She's respectful almost to a fault. She does not want to disappoint anyone, nor does she want to get in trouble. A phrase as simple as, "pull your mask up" too many times to her could be seen as getting in trouble. She is extremely shy at first glance. It takes her time to warm up to new people. Call me a helicopter mom, but I emailed her teacher about 2 weeks in to ask how things were going. She refused to tell us her day other than, "I had a good day. Gym was fun. I got to wave to a friend in the other class when we were outside." Her teacher said she had been very quiet since the start of school. She's really quiet. She hasn't come out of her shell yet. Michael and I were both very worried and saddened by this. We knew it would take her some time to blossom and show her personality. We didn't want to make her feel some kind of way, so we left it up to her to tell us how school was without prying too much. I asked her, what's going on? Were kids being mean? Did you just not like the vibes in the classroom? It's okay to tell us. We would never be mad or angry. We could discuss it with your teacher without embarrassing you. She just stroked her shoulders and said, no, everything is okay. We wrote it out like this. We started going to school full-time in November. That is when we all saw the change in her. She was talking about her new friends. Finally, it clicked to Michael and I. She wore a mask all day. Her peers and her teachers wore a mask all day. When you have a child with a speech delay, with articulation being the primary problem, you see things a little differently. She did not talk a whole lot because she could not see people's facial expressions or their lips moving, and they couldn't see hers. She thought people wouldn't understand her, so therefore she was labeled the quiet girl.
Kim, you're at time, so just if you could.
I have to finish this. I have to. It looks really long, I promise it's not. She saw her SLP and SLP assistant about twice a week. During these visits, she was again in the classroom. She wore a smile mask with a piece of plexiglass between her and the SLP. The SLP wore a smile mask, sometimes a face shield, and again the plexiglass. Have any of you ever used a smile mask? Or do you know what it is? It's a mask with a piece of plastic around the mouth so you can see people's faces. These do not work. They fog up and then you really can't see anything. I recently emailed Superintendent Julie Regenbaum earlier this week. One of our main concerns was another year with masks on while doing speech therapy. What will she learn? I was told by Mrs. Regenbaum that it was important to know that masks can be removed for services, like those where it is appropriate. I reread that portion of the email over and over with a questionable look on my face. I was so confused. Speech therapy with no mask, which led me down a rabbit hole of thinking. These kids will have lunch in the lunchroom, recess outside, speech therapy sessions, sometimes paired up with a peer, but with no mask and no distancing.
Kim, I'm sorry.
No, I have to finish this. Ms. Regenbaum also stated, this is not a matter where we look at individual opinion or preferences. We have a duty of care to our 1,800 students. I do not disagree with her. That is a huge part of their job. But it is also our duty as parents to do the same. In many other emails that went out to other parents, it stated that kids did quite well with masks last year and adjusted well. But how would you all know? Did you send out a survey to children asking how their school year was with masks? Or what about mental health? No, you didn't. I didn't hear from anyone. Personally, we had conversations with her teachers who were great. But the supervisory union, nothing. We would receive the occasional email stating XYZ school has a positive case, but not once did anyone from the supervisory union reach out to us to ask, how are things, or we're just checking in. But now you have the duty to care for our kids. If anyone asks these students, mask to mask, I am willing to bet 99% of these children would say, it's okay. You are all people of authority. How honest of an answer are you going to get? We as parents, we get the brunt of all those feelings, the anger, the frustration, the depression, just to name a few. Not you. I'm truly not here for my individual opinion or preferences. If Michael could be here, he would tell you the same thing. I am here for our kids, all of our kids. Many students ranging from 3 to 18 have stated this about the mask. They're not comfortable, they slip off my nose, they get wet and gross, they can't hear people, they get really hot. Those are just a few complaints. I will ask you, if you allowed our 6 and 3.5-year-old to this board meeting to express their feelings about masks another year with no choice, would you take them seriously? Or would you think, did their parents coerce these kids into doing this? Or they're cute, they're young, resilient, they won't even remember these masked up times. No biggie, they'll be fine. We all suffered, your families and ours. This summer, Governor Phil Scott lifted all the mask mandates and hoped to get everyone's life back to pre-COVID times. For many families, it was a huge turn. Life did return to normal for them. We're able to see family and friends that they had not seen in over a year, and they were able to travel to vacation spots that they had previously missed out on. We come here tonight with the MVSD community to ask you, why mandate? Why not make a recommendation? Leave it up to the parents and children to choose what is right for them. No one here tonight is asking you to abolish them completely. We have no qualms with people who want to mask up. If this is what will make their families feel safe, then yes, absolutely wear a mask. But what about those kids who don't want to mask up? Too bad, so sad. I was also told that almost every school will be following these guidelines, so we must also follow suit. Don't we teach our children to be independent thinkers and be different? I tell my kids all the time, we are all different. We all look different, we all dress different, and we all talk different. If we were all the same, the world would be a boring place. As of this morning, Vermont Digger released an article that over in the Northeast Kingdom there's a school that is leaving it up to the parents. They followed the guidelines all last year and decided this year it should be up to the parents. We are not here to yell and fight. We are simply here to ask you all, please reconsider the mask mandate. We are not the enemy here, nor do we want you to be seen as the enemy. We are all a group of parents just wanting to do what is best for all the children in the Mvsd district. Thank you for your time, and I truly hope you leave this meeting with a different outlook.
Thank you, Kim, and I'm just realizing my mistake here. Kendra King, I'm sorry, I passed over you the first time. Kendra?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kendra King, and I live in Franklin with my husband and 3 children. Standing here in front of everyone tonight is not something that's easy for me. I can tell you right now, I'm extremely nervous, scared, and the emotions go on. I'm not typically a person who goes out of her comfort zone and puts herself out there, but tonight I feel it's so important. I wasn't originally planning on speaking at all. However, last Friday that all changed. I received an email from Julie, the superintendent of our school district. My heart sank. Our kids had to mask up again. I was frustrated and confused, like I know many other parents and community members were. I decided to respond to Julie to express my frustration, fear for my children, and ask some questions. It wasn't until I received her response that I knew I needed to stand up in front of all of you tonight. Not one of my questions was answered by Julie. She had absolutely no answers for me. Not even an, I'm not sure, I'll have to get back to you. I said to myself, this is the person who's supposed to be representing our community, who's supposed to have our kids' best interest, and she can't even answer a single question of mine concerning my children. I later found out that she was giving other parents the same exact response. There's no personality, nothing. I heard a lot of, the children did great last year, they adapted so well. I'm sure some of them did, but how do you know they all did? It's easy for superintendents, principals, and even some teachers to say this. The kids didn't have any choice at school. As far as I'm aware of, there was no survey sent out to parents, so no one knows how children did before school or after school, what kids went to school feeling like, what they went home feeling like. Last year, our family decided to do the remote option for our daughter, who is now in 6th grade. She was so excited to return to in-person learning. Then she learned she had to wear a mask. Everything changed. Just the other night, she says to me, Mom, I want to be homeschooled now, but I don't want to be that girl. One, the fact that she's even having to think about these things at 11 is sad. The peer pressures she's dealing with, and she isn't even in school right now. Two, I was so ready for her to be back with her friends again, as was she. However, the anxiety she has now of having to wear a mask has completely changed her mind. She now fears having to go to school and keep a mask on most of the day. Our younger boys didn't have the remote option. They were in preschool and pre-K. After lots of thought and going back and forth, my husband and I decided to send them to school. The days were short and we knew the teacher was amazing and planned to be outside as much as possible, where they didn't have to mask up. The first day was anything but easy. Honestly, probably harder than dropping them off at daycare for the first time. I can't tell you the number of times I left the school last year after dropping them off in tears, asking myself, am I doing the right thing by leaving them? There were multiple times they didn't want to be there. They made that clear. There was absolutely no question their anxiety was through the roof. We would have to talk them down the whole ride to school. The first day, our 5-year-old was in tears, sobbing hysterical. Do I force him to stay? Do I take him home? What was the right thing to do? I didn't know. In order for our youngest son to stay, we had to drop him off at 8 o'clock after all the kids had already gone to school. He would only go with one of his 3 teachers. I can't tell you the number of times that other people offered to walk him in. He would run to me and grab me. He was scared to go with these people. They were all wonderful people, but how did he know that? He could only see their eyes. Things may have got easier as far as drop off, but I can't tell you the number of times that we had to drop both our boys off with tears in their eyes. Some days we would leave that parking lot and they would still be in our vehicle. We got to a point where we weren't going to force them to stay. Aside from the anxiety that this has caused our children, I have other fears. Fears of how wearing the face mask every day is going to affect my boys' learning in crucial years. You're making young kids who are developing and learning being forced to have a mask cover their face. How are my kids supposed to learn to pronounce letters when they can't even see their teacher's mouth? Fear of how this is going to affect their immune system. I have heard of multiple kids with a stomach bug and colds this summer that they normally wouldn't have gotten. I want my kids to breathe in germs. I want them to build their immune system, something that God gave them as a part of life. Not one child in Vermont to date, not one child has died in Vermont to date, and only 3 have been hospitalized. More kids died in traffic accidents in 2019 than kids have died to date with COVID. Why are we doing this to our children? In the last board meeting, Julie said, following the recommendations are exceeding them in terms of masking. I'm almost done. Why? Why are we being stricter? Why can't we just follow the guidelines and have them recommended? Why do we have to mandate to take the freedom of choice away from parents? In her email to me, she said, "This is not a matter where we look at individual opinion or preference. We have a duty to care for 1,800 students. If we are going to exceed recommendations, and the community has had no survey, and you as the board have given her the authority to make the choices, then who does that leave to decide but her? No one, as far as I know. It leaves her. Her individual opinion is the only opinion that went into this and made the decision. Tonight, I ask all of you, the board, and Julie, to please reconsider this mask mandate. All that we're asking for is to follow the actual recommendations that the state and governor have made, which would give every family the choice what they believe is right for their own children. I leave you tonight with this, a recent quote I came across by Martin O'Malley. The way forward is always found through greater respect for the equal rights of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra.
Tobias, I'm not sure what's so important on that iPad, but I think you need to pay attention to what's going on.
Excuse me, sir.
We all noticed it, Toby. We all noticed it.
Excuse me. The only individuals who can be speaking during this meeting are those who have been recognized by the chair. Tammy Underwood.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying that these don't work, and neither do these.
Right.
They don't work. The people that manufacture these say it right on the box. They don't work. Having said that, I'm here for all of our kids, but especially for my son, who is now a junior at NVU. Caleb has been afflicted with a hearing impairment since he was little. He wears a hearing aid in his left ear, which compensates for a small portion of his hearing loss. So he still does not hear that well at all out of his left ear. He's compensated since he was little. He automatically turns and listens with his good ear when he can, but he's also learned since he was small to look at people's faces, to partially read lips. That's how he learns. There's nothing he can do about that. He has a medical IEP for this, so that if something is not working in the classroom, they can accommodate for that. But this and these have stripped him of that. I now have a son that has been begging to be homeschooled. My husband and I both work. As most of you in here, 2 people need to work now. So I'm trying to figure out how to keep a promise to my son. And I told him I would not put these back on him this year. He's not going through the headaches and the sinus problems and the lack of being able to see people's faces again. And now I have to decide, can I still work and do that? Most people can, but what choice do we have? We have to make the best decisions we can for our kids. And that's what you're supposed to help us do. And you've already put us behind the 8 ball by accepting guidance from the state, who has taken it from the powers that be, that's very ill-informed and quite frankly is lying to us. You made that decision before this board meeting and already voted on it before you even heard from us. You didn't send anything out to us. You didn't ask our opinion. You are a school board. You're not a medical board. There are children. There are children, and we get to decide what we do for them, whether it's put a mask on them or not. It shouldn't be mandated. If kids feel safe with a mask on, by all means, let them wear a mask. My son does not feel safe with it on. And part of that is because he is also a very intelligent child and has been doing the same research that my husband and I have been doing. And that these are hurting our kids. Within just 3 minutes, the level of carbon dioxide present in the air being breathed by school children wearing masks is 6 times higher than the legal limit of 0.2%. 3 minutes. And you want to go from 2 days a week to 5 days a week all damn day long? Are you kidding me? They are breathing in their own bacteria and their own crap, and you're expecting these to be good for them? We are designed to expel carbon dioxide, not turn around and breathe it back in. The other thing that really has me upset is that most people wear these. These are full of a thing called graphene. And if you want us to put these things on our children that are also putting batteries, transistors, computer chips, DNA sequencing, water filters, antennas, touchscreen LCDs, do you really want this on our children's faces? Yes, you people that are all wearing them now, you're breathing that in right now. And that's building up in your system. And why do you think a lot of these people are getting sick? It's because they are doing things like this to us to suppress our immune system. We eat healthy. We try to do as much as we can to stay healthy. We take immune boosters. We give our kids all natural vitamins. And then we turn around and do things like this to counteract it. That doesn't make any sense. We have to start using common sense and stop relying on people that are telling us that this is the best for our children because it's coming from places like the CDC, the NIH, and the WHO. Are you kidding me? Where do you think this problem even started from? Follow the money, people. Follow the money. You follow it far enough and they all have some kind of a compromised position and their own personal agenda that they're going to profit from at the expense of our children. And we have got to stop that.
Tammy, you're at time now. If you could find a way to wrap it up, please.
You're the ones that made the decision at the last board meeting that put us in the position to have limited time. So you're going to listen to what we all have to say.
Keep talking, keep talking.
Right.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Sorry,
Anybody that wants
we
to
have
talk
ground rules
about
of being
this,
respectful
I will
here,
give it
Tammy.
to you. The last paragraph I'm going to read is, what kind of message does it send to your children,
Tammy, I'm sorry, I
our
asked you
children,
not to. I can't allow
if
you
you
to
won't
continue.
stand up and fight for them? Do your research and use critical thinking and common
Casey
sense.
Myers is our next
Make your own
one
decision
up.
about your child's health and emotional well-being. And yes, our government can be that corrupt. And indeed it is. They have their own agenda, and this is the United States of America, and right now, for the moment, we are still the home of the free, as long as we stand up and act like it.
All right,
And
thank
you all
Tammy.
want to, and one more thing you all need to think about is you
Thank
need
you,
to think
Tammy.
about this book. It's called They Came for Me by Martin Underwood.
Thank you, Tammy.
The pastor who defeated the Nazis. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. voted out.
All right, Casey Myers.
I truthfully didn't want to speak today because I'm generally an emotional person, but even more so when it comes to something I'm passionate about. Choosing whether or not my kids have to wear masks for 8 hours is something I'm passionate about. My kids and their needs are literally my world. My husband is currently deployed right now, and if you can imagine what life is like for a 9, 11, and 14-year-old, it's heartbreaking. I worry the moment I go to sleep, the moment I wake up, and all the moments in between. I dissect their every mood all throughout the day. My job as their mom is to see them happy and thriving, and even more so now. I thought when COVID hit, it was the hardest year of our lives, and it was for sure challenging, and I don't pretend that we got through it without our challenges. But I knew 2020 would be hardest year as a family. My husband and I knew what was coming for the next year and the possible changes we would face. Last year we dealt with children's anxieties in different forms, a job change for myself, an adaptation to an insane amount of changes with school and sports, and of course the looming deployment. Last school year was anxiety-ridden across the board. The classroom quarantines, hybrid schedules turned in-person, turned hybrid, turned in-person, the shutting down of school before the holidays, extending shutdowns after the holidays, the canceling of sports and activities. We had so much unknown and the world crumbled before my kids at the drop of a hat. And I won't go into detail about how emotional it was for my children to say goodbye to their father for a full year, but it was heart-wrenching to say the least. Now I'm sure you're wondering why I'm pouring my heart out about the upheaval of our lives during deployment. But I want you to understand that what has gotten us through these last 97 days has been hope. My husband left on May 12th, and what got my children and I through the end of the second hardest year of school was that we were nearing the end of a bad chapter. The governor had talks about lifting the state of emergency, sports were in full swing, those who wanted to get vaccinated were, and masks were becoming a thing of the past. And it's been as normal as it could be for my kids, all summer long. We went camping, played sports, attended camps, went on vacations, left the house for the last 3 months without the anxiety of remembering a mask. And now as we approach the upcoming school year, we are faced once again with the hypocritical task of masking up. I simply cannot watch another school year of my 3 children having to mask up. I can no longer explain to them why they have to enter a building, walk down the halls, and sit in their seat in their classroom with a mask on, but not have to playing at recess, eating lunch in the cafeteria, or playing sports. I forced my children to comply last year even though I questioned it, and I refuse to do that to them again. My older 2 children are completely aware of the inconsistency of mask wearing and question it on the regular. I have witnessed the false security of people claiming it's science and American to mask up. I'm sorry, but I call bullshit. I don't judge, question, or chastise someone for choosing to wear a mask. I have come to realize in this crazy and uncertain time, people do what they feel is safe and comfortable, and for some it is wearing a mask. But on that same spectrum, you have to understand that others feel the exact opposite. I personally do not feel safe wearing a mask, and even more so for my children. These masks are hindering so many emotional problems for children as well as medical. I simply don't see school boards are not seeing this. So many children come to school for a safe place to be, and yet they have zero social interaction with their peers or their teachers, who are supposed to be their role models. Last year, kids didn't see one approving, sympathetic, or loving smile during school, not from a peer and not from a staff member. How freaking sad. I don't need my already highly sensitive children to enter into a more stressful environment with having to wear a mask. They don't like it, they can't breathe. My boys have had insane respiratory issues, and I simply can't explain to them why they have to wear it. So while I can understand how difficult this decision had to have been, I implore you to rethink it. Please think about the parents who feel mask wearing is unsafe and detrimental to their kids' health and well-being. We need to be considered just as much as the parents who feel mask wearing is safe. I want my kids to have a normal school year where they thrive in school academically and socially. My kids are living through the hardest year to date with their father gone. They need normalcy, and that's what I'm fighting for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Riley LaShore.
Still accepting signatures.
One more person wants to be added.
Another person.
Oh, yeah.
Devin, do we know if it's working online? I'm getting, people are trying to get in and they can't. Do you know?
As far as I know,
Okay.
I haven't seen any comments from them.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Riley LaShure and I live in Swanton. I'm a mother of 3. My oldest will be starting kindergarten this year. Throughout this pandemic, we've tried to keep life as normal as possible for our kids. We've tried not to instill fear in them. We have been factual about what has been going on, but in order not to skew their perception and make them fearful of other human beings, both now and when this is all over, we have let them know that they are safe and not in danger, which is the truth. As science has proven to us many times over now, children are at an extremely low risk of both catching and spreading COVID, and even lower risk of being seriously harmed by it. You're supposed to be following the science, right? So why aren't you? When I hear the experiences of other children that were in Mvsd schools last year, I'm both saddened and sickened. Not being allowed to walk your child into their first day of school, not being allowed to visit or have an occasional lunch with your child, kids not being allowed to have a mask break when they request it, kids being told that they're putting their classmates in danger if their mask falls below their nose. And that's just a few things that I've heard. This goes against everything that I want for my daughter in her first year of school. This is not the kindergarten experience that I want for my child. Is it what you want for her? Being required to cover her face every day, not being able to smile at her classmates and her teachers and have them actually see it. I refuse to send my child to a school and have her think that this is normal, that this is what school is supposed to be like. Sure, I could try to explain to her that it's not supposed to be this way. I could tell her she's supposed to be able to see the faces of her friends. I could tell her that normally she would not have to obstruct her breathing with some fabric strapped to her face all day. But how can I expect a 5-year-old to understand that the reality she's living 5 days a week is not supposed to be this way? How can I make her understand that her very first experience of school is something that should only be seen in a sci-fi movie, especially after a completely normal, no restrictions summer? And we still have no restrictions. Oh, except at school. Sorry, honey, but somebody else thinks that they know what's best for you, and mommy and daddy have no say. Does that sound right to you? Board members to our parents, how many times did you have to allow the board or the superintendent to make health choices for your child? I bet I can guess the correct answer to that one. None. You may think that this is all just fine, that we're overreacting, and that our kids are resilient, but you don't see the kids at home. You don't see them at their vulnerable, real selves, and I can assure you that they have made it overwhelmingly clear to us at home that they don't want to wear masks, that it does not make them feel good or happy. Quite the opposite, in fact. You say you have a duty of care to these students, then stop the one-track mind. COVID is not the only health crisis here. The physical, mental, and emotional health of our children is also at stake. And all that you're focusing on is the incredibly minute risk of COVID to these children. The effects of the mental and emotional trauma that the district is imposing on these children will far outlast any toll a COVID infection would likely ever take on them. Some have said that we need masks to prevent more quarantines, school closures, and sports cancellations. But did masks prevent any of that last year? No. Stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. You all could argue to me that masks are just temporary this year, just until we hit the 80% vaccinated mark, right? But let's be honest, will we ever hit that mark? Have you surveyed parents to see how many of us actually plan on vaccinating our children against COVID? We may have a lot of vaccinated adults in this state, but many of the adults who have school-aged children, even many of the ones who have taken the vaccine for themselves, have no plans to give a rush vaccine to our children that has 0 long-term clinical trial data and is not even FDA approved. For those of you who may not know, authorization for emergency use is not the same as FDA approval. Perhaps you need to start considering what will happen if the 80% is never hit. Will you continue to mask our children forever? If that seems unreasonable to you, to mask our children next year and the year after that and for years to come, then maybe you should start considering, where are you going to draw the line? When will enough be enough? This is not even getting into the fact that if we do hit the 80% vaccination mark, then the unvaccinated kids will be visually segregated with a target for bullying and harassment directly on their face. Some families who are staunchly pro-vaccine have no problem telling their children to stay away from the unvaccinated kids as if they're diseased second-class citizens unworthy of friendship. How do you expect the unvaccinated children will be treated by kids who come from those types of families? Can you imagine the mental and emotional trauma these children could end up having solely because somebody else decided that these kids aren't safe enough around others without a mask on, but only in school? Outside of school with no restrictions, they're free to do whatever they want and play with the same exact kids mask-free. In recent years, our country has been on a crusade for equality for all, yet here we are dividing our kids based on vaccination status. This seems like blatant discrimination, if you ask me. The last thing I'd like to mention is the job of this school board, to represent families of this community. The first bullet point on the guiding principles of the Mvsd school board mission statement states the following: to work together as one team serving the Mvsd school community. Do you feel like you're working as a team right now? As I understand it, the board chose not to work as a team on this issue and instead gave the decision-making power to the superintendent. One person. Do you feel like you're serving the school community right now? Because it certainly doesn't look that way from where I'm standing. You're all well aware of the petition that we began asking for community support on mass choice in our schools. Here in my hand is a printout of the number of signatures as of 6 p.m. this evening. 604. 604 signatures. It has only been published for a few days and over 600 people were eager to jump on board with us. This does not take into account the additional signatures that we have gotten on paper versions of the petition that have been posted throughout the community, or the people who wanted to sign but didn't due to fear of public judgment or retaliation. Additionally, this does not take into account the people who would have signed but simply didn't see the petition yet. This petition represents this community, which is who you are supposed to serve. That's exactly who the school board should be listening to and then changing course accordingly. This is your job. This petition represents the parents, the students, the community members, and not surprisingly, a fair amount of your very own staff. Several staff members have reached out to us to let us know that they're on our side and that they're so disappointed with this decision. Some have even stated that they did not want to get vaccinated, but did so that the kids could have a normal year again. But suddenly for many people, all of that was for nothing. I ask you to take a step back and remember your job here. With all due respect, your duty is not to Miss Reginbald, but to the kids and their families, and we want a choice.
Thank you, Riley. Michelle Helms.
Hi, my name is Michelle Helms. I live in Enosburg, and I've come to help the families in this community to be heard. Because our district is not doing that. I come with the hope of a school board in our area that will finally listen to what we are telling you, the facts that we are presenting you with, and look them over and not just take them into consideration and continue on with your agenda. I come with the hope that you will stand up for your community members that have supported you, encouraged you, and trusted you with our children's education. A school board that will put aside this fear-based, unproven data that the media and the government is scaring people with, and trust the parents that know what is healthy and safe for their children and their communities. A school board that will stand up and say, we listened to the families, we looked at the overwhelming data that they provided with us, and we have based our decisions on those facts. I can assure you that if you do, you will restore trust in your community, to our children's mental, emotional, physical health, and be advocates for that, and continue to help empower our children with the lessons that we have been leading them to believe to be true, which are: 1, you have the power to create change. 2, your voice matters. 3, stand up for others even when it's hard. And 4, no means no. I share with you some information from the professor of medicine from Johns Hopkins. I'm sure you're well familiar with Johns Hopkins Hospital, Dr. Marty McCary. I hope it will play. Just give me a minute. Service isn't very good here in Swanton.
How long is the clip, Michelle?
Not very.
Like a minute? Less?
Less. Basically what he's saying, as of July 21st, there's 48,000 COVID cases in the ages of 0 to 17. There has been a number thrown around that 355 of those people between the ages of 0 and 17 died. They went through the study and actually went through and found the data that states all of the healthy children that were in that 355, or in that 48,000, zero healthy children died.
Very, very good that you did that. But again,
Zero.
Since you've paraphrased, I'd rather not listen to the clip.
It's him directly.
Feel free to email that link to the board.
Yeah, if you'll consider it. I also really want you guys to follow the money, because I really believe this is falling on deaf ears. Your emotions, your concerns, everything that you guys are saying right now is all valid, but I'm telling you, the money. They are getting grants. They are getting grants.
Michelle, please address your comments
You don't
to
want
the
to
chair.
you are getting grants that are supporting this masking. There's evidence all over this. And I'm telling you, find out who your grant writer is. Somewhere here, there's a grant writer. And they are masking our kids because they won't get this money unless they do.
Thank you, Michelle. Lisa Hilliker.
I don't really have anything to say that hasn't already been said, except as parents, if your school is going to continue to abuse your children with these mask mandates, take your kids elsewhere and demand that your money follows your kids to a school. Teach them rather than conform your kids. Would I be able to get the sign-up sheet to speak, please?
Thank you, Lisa. Emily Gabry.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Gabry, and I have 2 children in Highgate Elementary. I'm here with questions and concerns regarding their future enrollment. My first concern is in the Mvsd reopening guidance. Mask wearing in schools should be tied to the rate of student vaccination in the building. You stated at this time there is no clear process for this standard. However, your current guidelines are based on recommendations in a memo from the DOE. And the DOE Secretary, Dan French, is also recommending that once 80% of the eligible student population of any school has received the vaccine, the guidance will change to masking only unvaccinated individuals. This leaves me and many other families stuck between a rock and a hard place, choosing between masking or vaxxing. I do not feel comfortable with either, and I do not believe either of those options is in the best interest of all students. I struggle to understand how masking requirements are justified when children have been considered low to non-risk throughout this entire pandemic. Vermont's own health commissioner, Dr. Mark Levine, co-authored a study done at UVM last year. Our governor's right-hand man throughout this whole entire pandemic stated, increased spread of disease by the use of masks is a common finding in the research. In fact, this was one of the primary concerns about their use in community settings. In the fall of 2020, the World Health Organization issued advice for mask use among youth that contradicted much of the advice given to Vermont schools. Based on evidence of the low risk youth pose, the WHO suggested that masks should only be used by youth in areas of widespread transmission. All the health professionals we are supposed to be taking recommendations from are constantly contradicting themselves. Speaking of contradictions, according to Mvsd reopening guidelines, students are able to unmask in the cafeteria with no social distancing guidelines and unmask at recess with full access to playground equipment this year. Almost an entire hour of their school day goes completely back to normal. Pre-COVID times. Does COVID not spread at lunch and recess? Is COVID on its break too? Is their health truly a risk or is it not? As far as the COVID vaccine goes, I am by no means an anti-vaxxer. I have 3 children, ages 2 to 11, all up to date on their shots. My problem with this particular vax is the fact that 80% of students are being forced into receiving it. Hasn't even passed clinical trials, but all are required to, once available, in order to demask. There's not much freedom in these options. Everyone has the right to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force. Masks, vaccines, fraud, deceit, duress, overreach, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. What is the urgency to get these kids vaccinated when it has been proven over and over they are not at risk? Who are we protecting? Not the kids, they are safe. Not the adults, they can get vaccinated if they want to. I'd love to see mask choice for our district because it would also mean vax choice, and I'm hoping for some clarity within the guidelines. My only other option is to homeschool. The only option that I have any control over would mean pulling my children from a place considered their second home for most of the year, a choice that is bound to break all 3 of our hearts. Julie, you stated in quite a few parent emails, it's now the responsibility of each local district to make the final decision on behalf of the children. They still expect us to follow the advice they give, however. But these guidelines are non-binding. It is not necessary to obey. Is this about student safety or about compliance? The role of the school board is to ensure the district is responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of the community, to seek community input in a variety of settings and contexts to ensure engagement is representative of the community itself. Please start listening to the families in your district. It's time everyone here starts realizing who's really going to suffer. All in the name of politics. The kids. This is not fair to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Emma Gerard.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize, first of all, I think I'm in the minority here tonight.
You're not here.
Oh, I'm in the minority tonight. I'm here because this last year was incredibly challenging in school, at work, and every single setting, for every single person across every single age. We were all faced with a ton of challenges, a ton of barriers. And I want to stand here and thank each and every one of you for making that really hard choice. I think it's important for our kids to be following the science, to be following the medicine, because it is important for our kids to be wearing these masks. They do work. I work in a healthcare setting. We wouldn't have masks in healthcare settings for centuries if they didn't work. And I think Devin makes a really good point. If you go back to the goal for each and every one of us being here today, and the goal for electing each and every one of you to our school board, it is because our children are at the heart of it all. They are the heart of each and every single person here, including yourselves. They are at the heart of this community and what this community and society becomes. And I think it's important that we continue to teach them that while things are hard, sometimes we still have to do them. And I think that if things were to go back to the way they were last year, where my children were home with me, trying to work and trying to teach them, my children hated that far more. It was a disaster, and that was more detrimental to any of our mental and emotional well-being than being in school with a mask. And that may be my personal experience, but I think it's still notable. I was talking with somebody earlier today about the fact that how fortunate that this year we get to start right at 5 days a week, and that our kids get to be not just in their classroom, but in other rooms within the school, that they can play outside with kids of other ages without their masks, that they can go to music class, they can go to an art class, they can do all these different things that they didn't have last year. And I think that that's the really important perspective shift that I've been hoping for from the community, is that we don't have to do it the way we did last year. We get a little bit more. And while it's not ideal and it's not the best thing, we can do the best that we can do. And I want to thank you for your support, your decision. I want to thank you for the continued supports and services within our school and within our district, and within our doctor's offices. The anxiety is real. My own daughter has had increased anxiety, and so I reached out to the resources that are available to her, including the school. She's seeing a counselor. We've wrapped the school in already on how to support her through all of this, because those supports are there. And the communication is available with each and every one of you any day of the week that we need it to be. So again, I'm in the minority, but I'm here to represent the hundreds of people who didn't sign the petition to say thank you for making this decision for our children.
Thank you, Emma. Megan. No last name. I assume you do have one, though.
Is it the last name on the list? Because that's me. There might be another Megan.
Yeah, a couple more have been added, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go last.
last.
I'm going to finish it out, so I'm going to trade with them.
Okay. All right, then Kaylee Severy.
Kaylee couldn't be here today, but she recorded something for you all to hear.
Heartened, I feel the need to be speaking up tonight. I have always had utmost faith in Highgate Elementary School. The school teachers and staff have been nothing less than incredible. I always feel confident and safe with them in control of my child's education and well-being while being at school. When I received a copy and paste cookie-cutter response from the superintendent, Julie Regenball, after emailing her a heartfelt and concerning email regarding questions I had, concerns about my children, specifically my son, I felt defeated. I was angry, confused, sad, heartbroken, to be completely honest. I understand she has a lot on her plate, but this is a serious matter to parents. We take risks every day on choices that affect our children. When we are stripped from our choices, it causes a lot of emotions, as it should. Continuing to hear adults speak on my child's behalf without asking or without much concern feels wrong to me. We keep hearing all kids were fine. Kids are resilient. Then why was my child not fine? I've asked myself this question many times, but truth is, he isn't the only one. He will be entering 4th grade this year and my daughter 3rd grade in Highgate Elementary. Our experience last year was not an easy one. These adults, speaking for my child, weren't there in the middle of the night around 2 to 3 in the morning with a crying, emotionally distraught child over masking in school. They weren't there to wipe his tears from feeling lonely all day at school and comforting his anxiety nightly. To then see his academics become even more of a challenge because he was too tired to get his schoolwork done. He is a child that always gives 100% and does his best. To last year, unable to do so, and even refuse some of his work, which is completely out of character for him. With the support at home and his wonderful teachers, we got him through expecting normalcy this fall. This is just the emotional piece. It's also teaching him to do something against his free will, to make him put something on his body that he doesn't want. As parents, we try and protect them from this behavior. It's their body. It needs to be their choice. They have a say to what happens to their body. Please correct me if I'm wrong. None of us know the long-term effects of masking on children, such as weakened immune systems, emotional traumas, their heart or lung health. We tell our children to not touch their faces and wash their hands, but want them to wear something on their face, which makes them touch their face all the more. What happens when they use the restroom and put their mask down on the sink so it falls on the floor? They pick it up and put it back on their face? Sharing of masks at school happened all the time. The spit, saliva, breathing in their own CO2 for long periods of time. Do any of you know the long-term effects of that? I'd love to know. None of us know the negative effects of this on our children long-term, and we need the choice to take that risk or not for our own child. There are more than enough studies to show and prove the virus droplets go through cloth masks, the masks that the children will be wearing. The parents that want a choice still believe parents that feel safe and want their children masked should be able to do so without judgment. If they feel a mask will protect their child and that's the safety net that they need to be able to choose that they can freely do so and have their children attend school with a mask. As we should be able to send our children unmasked, free of judgment as well. I really hope you all reconsider your decision. Without a public survey or asking parents, children, their thoughts and feelings before finalizing a decision is very bold and lacks empathy for not just my son, but all of the children who are negatively impacted by masking. I am speaking up today for every child that didn't have a voice or a chance to speak up. We put so much trust into our school systems. We understand the responsibility, but we are all in this together. We need to work together and take every child's needs and emotions into consideration. I mean, that's what you all are here for, isn't it? To put the children first, to stand up for the families, to speak up for your community. We all are adults here and need to make those decisions for our children. Every choice has a consequence, and we want to be the ones who choose it for our own children. Thank you for your time and your reconsideration.
Don, you have a question for me? Don, your hand is up. Maybe that was an accident.
He might be on mute, Devin. He forgets a lot. Ask him if he's on mute.
Don Collins, did you intend to raise your hand? All right. Take that as a no. Abigail Freeman.
I am a 15-year-old sophomore, currently going into my sophomore year at Missisquoi Valley School and Middle School. And my past year has not only affected my mental health, but the way I perceive things. For the longest time, I feared going to school. I didn't want to be there because I was told that asking for a mask break was disrespectful. It wasn't something I was granted. It wasn't something that I could be given because we had better things to do. But when I'm having anxiety attacks and I can't breathe and I can't see and my world is spinning, I need something, and that wasn't compensated for me. I never had an issue before. I was afraid to pull my mask down to need something. I was afraid to go to school with allergies that I have medicine for, but that medicine can't always control with a stuffy nose and a cough because I would no more than sniffle, and every head in the room would turn to me and make me feel like I was an outcast. I shouldn't have been there, and it wasn't fun. Going through sports and not having my freshman year, going into soccer, having fun, all the tournaments, it was hard. I was masked, and you couldn't take those breaks. Your mask would be soaked, and you're breathing in all of the water, and you can't function in your body, it just doesn't work. And they say that you should be able to be fine. They say that it shouldn't affect you, but it really does. And not many people look at it that way, and not many people are gonna value my voice, and I know that, but I really want it to be heard, because I am standing behind a lot of the kids who go to that school knowing that their voice isn't heard, and they're scared to voice their opinion, and because they are belittled. You are made to feel less than if you pull your mask below your nose as if it's something that's gonna kill someone. You are made to feel bad if you're not vaccinated. Your teachers are pressuring you, and you try to voice your opinion on it, but you're silenced because they don't want to hear it. I was learning about the vaccine and everything, and all the things that were going on in our world, and I tried to voice my side and what I had learned, things that I had researched, but none of it was like it went through one ear and out the other because they didn't care. Nothing I had said was valued. Nobody listened to what I said because it wasn't what they wanted to hear. Nobody wants to hear a 15-year-old girl stand up for herself or voice the opinion that most people don't want to voice. But I didn't. And I didn't come here prepared with anything. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. But I am basing what I'm saying off my emotions and my experiences because nobody knows it until they live it. The parents see and they comfort, but nobody knows what you go through when you walk through those doors. Mask up. You can't have your mask below your nose. You're yelled at or you're reprimanded because you pull your mask below your nose, or you raise your hand to ask to go to the restroom because that's where you can take your mask off, in a stall. So when you're told no and you can't breathe and you're not given the resources and the things that you need to feel okay, nobody wants to be there, nobody wants to go, and you don't feel like you're as good of a person as you should. And I myself have went through it, and I have felt like I was less than, like what I said didn't matter. I have went through the anxiety and the depression of it. And going back to school this year and putting on a mask and having to go through it all again terrifies me. And you're the ones who can change that. You're the ones who make the decision for me. I have to follow what you say. And I'm just hoping that you listen to what I say and you take my experiences and my words and you value them. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. And Abigail, I'll say, you don't know if your voice is valued. Your voice is valued. It's valued here. It's valued wherever you choose to use it. I have a daughter who will be turning 3 soon, and I hope when she's 15 she has the courage to use her voice. Megan. Megan, could you provide your last name for us?
Medler.
Medler, thank you.
Today is the day that the board members I know by name who oppose this mask mandate speak up and stop fearing the judgment of their peers. It is a small town and we hear. It's time to put masks back on the agenda. I will not back down and they will not back down.
Nope.
We will continue to come. We will continue to write. And if we must, we will come for the seats if you refuse to act like board members. It is not your job to follow baseless science because it happens to be published by a for-profit agency. Science you refuse to read. We have more science in this room that contradicts the safety of masks than the city has in favor of. You, and I quote, "We are not doctors and scientists" last week, but the truth of the matter is, you are not the parents of our children, and we gave you no permission to make invasive health decisions for our children, and we won't. We will see you at the next board meeting. There will be more of us. I promised you last time there would be more, and we went from 1 to 50. I can't wait to see what we bring next time. So please, take us into consideration and bring the agenda of masks back, because we have a whole community of people that need to be heard.
All right, thank you, Megan. I don't see anyone further on our sign-up sheet. I don't see any hands raised online. So that will conclude the correspondence portion of the agenda. The next item on the agenda is agenda review. Julie, any amendments to the agenda? No. All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of August 10th. We'll pause for a moment.
Shame on you guys. Shame on you guys.
All right, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the August 10th meeting. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Peter has made that motion. Do I have a second? Terry is the second. Any discussion? Toby?
Yeah, I'm just curious, guest present. I know we didn't list the person's name, but I'm not so sure we can do that. So I think what I would be in favor of approving his minutes, provided we can do that, because I kind of looked it up. And I think participants in the meeting, in addition to board members, have to be named. And if a person spoke at the meeting, so.
Just a moment. So just so everyone could hear that, we had a public member of the public who's here tonight at our meeting last week. We did not get a last name during that meeting, and the minutes refer to her as a parent of an MVU student, I believe. And so the discussion is whether or not to include the name of the member of the public.
I'm okay with it how it is, but I just don't know if we can legally do that. So that's my only.
Terry?
At this point, I think it's okay to take a risk and confidentiality with your child. Sorry, I was just going to say that at this point, I think it's safe to take that risk of confidentiality with the children and child.
So I'll say, Toby, I had a similar thought. I think it's important at town meeting or any kind of public meeting for folks who attend to make a comment to our community that their name also appears if people know who is making that comment. I thought. Any other discussion on this? The motion is to approve the minutes. I did not hear an amendment, so the motion would include it as currently written. Peter?
I just question, I know the minutes were sent out and a couple of names were put in incorrectly.
Yeah.
The copy I have now, I believe changes that except for, I think Joanne had said that she got credit, I think under other business, board goals committee, that should have been Terry. And they announced the next goals committee and not Joanne. So, reading what Joanne wrote.
That's been changed also.
That's been changed also, okay. So I guess if these changes have been made, I assume that's right.
Any other discussion? Don?
I could hear totally clearly, but I don't know if you were speaking or who's speaking, but it's very muffled. It's almost like you have to hang over your mouth. I don't know if it's you, I can't recognize the voice. But previously I could hear the voice.
I'll rearrange the laptop we have over on our side of the room. Can you hear me now? Oh, but this mic's turned off, but it's only Julian's up there. Sorry, Don, we're a little spread out. We'll try to speak very loudly for you.
Thank you.
All right, those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye or raising your hand online. Aye. Don is an aye. All right, the motion carries 9-0. All right, we are now on the elementary administrative reports, and I'm going to go in the order in which they appear here in our data drive. So we'll start with Swanton and Chris Dodge.
Thank you for the opportunity. I don't want to have my back to anybody, so this is okay. I want to just start out, and I'll be really brief. I know you have a busy agenda, but I want to start out tonight just by thanking folks for the really incredible welcome that I've received. That really started even at the outset of my hiring process with my conversations with Bonnie. And from that point forward, everyone at our district office and our school has been incredibly responsive and welcoming and supportive, and I have a tremendous appreciation for that. It felt really good, really fast, and that's a really positive thing. I think it's very reflective of the climate, the professional climate that this district has established. So I'm very appreciative of that. I just want to touch on a couple of things that are in my report that I think board members have already seen. But Swanton is an incredibly busy place over the summer, and I have a fun opportunity to laugh with my colleagues on occasion because, as you all know, I come from a much, much smaller school than Swanton. Swanton has about 35 or 40 more staff members than I had students in my past school. So it's been really exciting for me to see everything that happens here at Swanton over the summer, beginning with our Crossroads program. So Crossroads serve 70 students each day this summer with summer programming. One of the things that's been super impressive to me is how all of the programs that Swanton offers in the summer have been woven together. So students would come here in the morning. They started right out with an opportunity to have breakfast, working with our food service provider. They would come in, they would then either go to tutoring, some summer tutoring if that was a service that they were registered for, and some folks would go to the Crossroads program. Some of our special needs students would also receive services here over the summer, and those were incredibly seamless. That was a really impressive coordination of all of those things. So it's been exciting to see all of the things that have been offered since I've had a chance to see them on July 1st. I want to thank Jason, who's walking away right now. Now he's walking back in because I called him out. But I want to thank Jason and our custodial staff for the work that they've done this summer. There's been a tremendous amount of, sorry Jason. That's okay. You're good. There's been a tremendous amount of work that's happened, painting, tiling, all kinds of stuff that's gone on this summer, and that having that level of work in this big oak school and working around all of the programming that I just mentioned is no easy feat. Robert and his team has also been involved in a really significant Wi-Fi upgrade project here, and has also been super responsive to the needs of folks in the building. So we've appreciated that. Thanks to all those folks and our office staff that has worked tirelessly to get ready for the beginning of the year. One of the things that I wanted to mention tonight is Julie has shared with administrators the goals that you all have set as a board, and we've had an opportunity to start to think about those and talk about those. And one that is particularly important is community engagement. And I know that all of you have set that as a goal this year. That's a passion of mine. And thinking about, regardless of where we stand with our COVID piece, thinking about how we engage our community in multiple ways and make that access easy for our families. That's a piece that we've already started. We've revised our website. As you may have read in my report, we've made some changes to that that have been exciting. We've been working with some local media folks to get some good PR out there about Swan. I think it's really important for us to tell our own story so that it doesn't get told for us. And so we've been working hard on that as well. We've started a lot of social media work, trying to get lots of photographs and then the good word out about the hard work that folks are doing here. The last piece that I want to mention is a really exciting student group. One of the things that was very important to me is always remembering to keep students at the center of every single thing that I do and every single decision that I make. And it was really important to me on my very first day here to be with students. So Justina was great before I even came on board in helping me put together a group of students, 2 students from each of 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade that I met with in my second hour here on the job on my very first day, and had a really nice opportunity to speak with them about what they love about their school, what they might change about their school, how we make their experience as positive as possible. And that's a group that I will continue to meet with very regularly. They decided to name themselves the SWAN group, with using that as an acronym for Students with Awesome News. So that's what we're going to be thinking about in that group, is how we get out our awesome news and how they become leaders in our school. I think student leadership is a really important piece of what we do. So the very last thing that I'd like to say, I spoke at the beginning just a little bit about how welcoming everybody had been, and I would really be remiss not to very publicly thank Justina, who has approached having a new person with a tremendous amount of tolerance and humor and willingness to answer the same question 5 times and point me to the same Google Doc 5 times to get the answers. And I just really appreciate that, Justina, and you have really made my transition a whole lot easier, so thank you very much. And I would be happy to answer any questions if the board has questions.
Any questions from the board? For Chris?
I have a question. At the end of the meeting, I speak loud, so you don't. At the end of the meeting, is the gym open? I'd like to look at the school board, or scoreboard.
It sure would be.
Well, if it's locked, it's no big deal. Well, if you're staying the whole night.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to turning that fan off in the back, sacrificing maybe a little temperature comfort to be able to hear? All right, we'll give that a try. Oh, there's another fan.
Yeah, so I think that's
They want that one on over there. All right, I think that is considerably better, so let's try it like that. Next on the list is Yeshua for hiking.
All right, hello everybody. So speaking for Highgate, we've definitely had some exciting things going on. We have had in-service this week, which is always great to have all of our staff back, talk about our initiatives, how we're making it happen. And we've really had some incredible presenters that our staff have been really excited about. In particular, we had Leah, who does We Can Writing, or We Do Writing, excuse me. And we had pretty much a full day of her explaining the whole process, and she actually got to meet with individual teams and talk about how that would happen. And she also has structured a couple of days throughout the year. She'll come back, she'll coach, and she'll actually go into classrooms and teach how we're going to be doing this writing, which is wildly exciting for me, and we're just so excited for her to be there. So it's really great to have her throughout the year. We also got to have Joelle Van Lent, who's talking about resiliency, and she actually met with us today. And that was also fantastic. Lots of great ideas about how we can operate as staff to staff, staff to students, and students to students. So that was definitely very exciting for today. And as you knew from a little while ago, we did have Mariette come in and talk about the Highgate High School plaque ceremony. And Chris Shepard was there, and Ms. Reginald was there. It actually was an incredible turnout. We had almost 65 people, which I thought was great. We put up the plaque, and in fact, when I put it on Facebook, as I got to put it out there to the world, almost 2,000 people interacted with that post, which is the highest that we've actually had in the year that I've been here. So I thought that was just incredible. It obviously was very meaningful. And at the ceremony, lots of great shared memories and talking about former principals and where they were located, and these teachers did this, and we did things we shouldn't have. And so it was a great day, really just to reminisce and have those memories, because the Highgate alumni group has actually disbanded. And so that was kind of their final push. But it really was a great run event, so I really appreciate everybody who was involved. Kind of like what Chris already said, I can't thank Scott Martin and his team enough. There is a lot that goes on in the summer, and having to wax floors and have kids in the building is actually really challenging. And they did a fantastic job of moving around and going wherever they needed to make sure our kids could be in the building. And we are pretty much ready, besides kind of some of our main floors. So we're excited to welcome everybody back. We also do have parent-teacher conferences coming up this Monday that we're excited that we'll welcome parents back into school. Obviously they'll be masked up when they're coming in, but we're very excited to be having that happening. Highgate in particular, we really enjoy these parent-teacher conferences because families get to meet with their teachers before school starts. And it's much more about welcome, this is how things are going to go, what are some questions you have, please get on Seesaw, that's how we communicate. So it's just a great way to meet with families ahead of time, which I definitely find awesome. I also really want to thank Robert Jarvis. He was at Highgate practically every day because it's an old building. So when you're rewiring, there are some ceilings you can't get into. And then all of a sudden you're drilling through cement, which you didn't plan on doing. And Robert was pretty much on call. I know he misses me now because he hasn't been in school for 8 hours maybe. So I really can't thank Robert enough for all his help making sure everything's happening. And I think that's pretty much everything for me. We're excited for our year to get started here. But certainly if you have any questions.
Thanks, Yeshua. Any questions, comments from the board members? Don't see any. Thanks, Yeshua.
All right, thank you.
And Joyce.
Okay. I'm last, and I think I am least tonight because I wrote this so long ago. I've got to have my notes here and my glasses to see what I said. So starting with summer, which seems like a long time ago right now, in-service week, I will tell you, is my hardest week of the entire year. It's a super week, but it is jam-packed every minute. And if I had a wish, I wish we could have one more in-service day at the start of the year and one more at the end. Because I feel like there's just so much more that we still want to get done. But back to summer for a second. Summer programming at Franklin included our summer enrichment program, which this year we had 30 students enrolled in one-to-one tutoring. And I just can't say enough about with 5 teachers who were willing to do that this summer after a long and challenging year for everybody last year. And so our 5 teachers, Cheryl Ostrander, Krista Berkheimer, Carrie Tu, Brianna Mercy, and
Sarah Bouvier.
Yeah, Sarah Bouvier, and Sarah Bouvier. And we did not only in-person tutoring, but we offered virtual if that worked better for families. And so if a child was at daycare, they could still participate. If a child was camping at the lake or wherever. And just can't thank families enough for having kids participate. The time that was available kind of varied with families. But I really feel strongly that half a loaf is better than none. And even though we'd always want even more time, the time that we got was great. And it was just wonderful. And we were so pleased with the participation that we had. That was the most kids we've ever had participate in summer enrichment. And along with that, we had 22 kids participating in the Summer Crossroads program. And that just made my day, many days, because to walk up to the cafeteria and see kids eating together up there, which we'll be able to do again soon, and they were playing together outside, different grades. And the first day I walked up to the cafeteria and they were all eating up there together, I just stood there a second and just was like, this is so special. And I feel like there are so many things that we took for granted that I will never take for granted again. Because that was just the activities that the kids were doing. There was also Rude, our Franklin coordinator, does such a super job coming up with activities that the kids love. They did things, drama with Ernie Hemingway, and in 4 days they learned their lines and put on their presentation. They did sports challenge. They did art connections. I put some of the pictures in your report. Just a wide gamut of things, and it was just great to see the kids doing such really fun learning activities. So that was some of the things from summer. Also what the teachers did over the summer. We had several teachers, 2 teachers starting their master's program. We had 1 teacher finishing her master's program. Each of our grade level classroom teachers either have their master's or in the master's program right now. And we had other teachers participating in a couple others, like framing your thoughts course, dimensions of learning, and some other workshops and conferences. There were less things offered this summer for people to take, but we did have a lot of professional development going on this summer. Down for a second, Laura. Switch my page. Oh, facilities. Everybody already said it, but I'm going to say, there goes my hearing across the road. So facilities work this summer. We had so many projects going on with so many tight timelines. There were people up over our heads with wires. There was alarms going off literally the entire day, putting in a new fire alarm panel. Like, I'm not joking, 8 hours, 10 hours of beep, beep, beep. And everybody was flexible about it, and everybody just went with the flow, whether it was the summer school program, moving around, or whatever it was. Because it was all going to be worth it, as Robert said. When it's done, it's all going to be worth it. But the wiring project that was done, we replaced our entire fire alarm panel and all the kind of accompanying things, horns, strobes, all those things, the annunciator. Our sprinkler system, we replaced critical components of our sprinkler system. I know this is boring stuff, but it is really important. And it's really a lot of work that was done. And there's just numerous other projects. And I have to say that, as these guys already think, they're head guys. The head guy in Franklin was brand new. He had never been to Franklin during a summer before. And I just have to say, just so much credit needs to go to him for the managing of all these projects and the way that he did that. When he was new to the role, when summer programming lasted longer than it ever has, we were waiting for distancing guidelines to see if we could put rooms back together. We were shorthanded at the beginning of the summer. We were shorthanded again at the end of the summer. And so just kudos to him because he just did a really fabulous job. Oh, and one update on the exciting new project that just got approval last week. The new heating, the propane, the tanks were delivered. They're already excavated for the bunker, and concrete is being poured tomorrow. If you want to see a facility director get excited, tell them they're getting a new boiler. And their eyes just kind of light up.
Sorry, Jason. Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. We are welcoming, the only new staff we have is our new guidance counselor and our new full-time custodian, who just started last week, our full-time custodian, and we are welcoming back our foster grandparents, who we are so excited to have back. It was so hard to not have them last year. And we also are getting a new foster grandparent, which is exciting. I just think the foster grandparents add a whole other dimension to our school, and I think it's wonderful for the kids and wonderful for them, and just our whole school community. And this foster grandparent worked in the program this summer, and just absolutely loved it, and he's coming back to work with us this fall. And really exciting, we have 12 new students again this year. I don't know what's going on with Franklin, but last year 15 new students, 12 new students this year, and we have been right out straight, doing tours and having families come in to visit. I think it's really important. As soon as a family comes in, I like to give them a tour of the school, so I've already done a lot of the tours, but some of the families hadn't met their teachers, so they've been coming back in again this week to meet their teachers. I just think that really helps relieve a lot of anxiety with starting school. So that's been super busy. Our August in service, you have my report, all the typical things we usually do. As Yeshua was saying, we've had some really great speakers. We had our day today with Leah. We'll talk more about that another day. Just really exciting work around writing that we're so looking forward to. And I want to just mention the SEL presentations that were done at each school. Our third grade teacher, Laura Sullivan, presented for us. And she just did an outstanding job. And I know each of the other schools had a presentation also. And so August in service ended today. Tomorrow we have kindergarten orientation. And we also planned for our Fun First Friday, which is Friday, August 27th on that afternoon. And we are having back to school night on Thursday, September 2nd. And I am so looking forward to having the kids back next Wednesday. And try to talk as fast as I could. Anybody have any questions for me? If it's a boiler question, I might defer to Jason.
Joyce, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Can you explain to me briefly what a foster grandparent does?
Foster grandparents?
For the kids?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it kind of differs sometimes with each class. They might have a student be reading to them. They might work, a lot of times they're in the younger grades, so they might work on sight words with kids. It's really whatever the teacher might ask them to do to help out. Passing out papers, just sitting with a student. The kids love it when they go up in the lunchroom and they're sitting up in the lunchroom with them. Nowadays, not everybody has grandparents. It was kind of funny when they first approached me about this program because when I was younger, I had one grandparent until I was 9. I never had any other grandparents that were alive, and I was like, you guys can be my grandparents. And it just really adds a whole other dimension to the school with their history and their experiences. They might work, like I said, just anything the teacher might ask them to do. Working on maybe some addition problems with kids, flashcards, just whatever the teacher might ask them to do. And they've just been a wonderful addition to our school.
Nice. Thank you.
I love it on, like when we have a grandparent dinner, again, sometimes kids don't have grandparents, and we say, you can have an aunt, mom, uncle, anybody, and with the foster grandparents that day are very, they would be innocent with me. Did you have a question for me? Oh, what's supposed to be for? Sorry, Devin, I'm taking over your job.
We have to take that microphone back from you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that when I was in high grade, we had foster grandparents, and we had one in the 5th grade. I never ever forgot her. And when I met my husband's family for the first time, I was lucky enough that she was part of the deal. So, I mean, they really do make a big impression on kids.
Thank you.
Could you state your name for the camera? Thanks a lot.
You should just see, I did just a quick talk when you were at the Foster Grandparent Recognition Program, and the things that the kids wrote about why they like having a foster grandparent in the school just would make me cry. I'll have to pull this out. Anybody have any other questions? Yeah, please.
This is more for everybody, not just Joyce, but because I can't remember, I read what you guys put out, and I'm just thinking about the summer school programs, and it sounded like very good attendance, like 95% I saw somewhere, and a lot of one-on-one. So I know this is very important because we know what we've lost over the last year and a half. We don't have the in-person, we didn't have it. Students are behind, we know that. Is this obviously helping to catch up, and are we in a good position moving forward to try to bring the kids back up to where they should be?
Sure, I can use it for
All right. So my observations about the summer program were that one of the strengths of those programs is that it keeps students into our building. One of the nice things about the Swan program is that it's not limited to those students that might need a particular service in the summer. And so what it does is it keeps all students together, or many students together with their peers. It keeps them in the building. And certainly those programs serve two main purposes. They forward our social and emotional learning curriculum, and they also forward our academic curriculum. So the nice thing about the balance that I observed here over the summer was students would come in, they started off with the social component, everyone was having breakfast together. They went off, and when they went off into their individual groups, they were working on their individual plan pieces. So students that have a particular plan in our school, a particular learning plan, they had goals that were very specific. Students that were participating kind of more generically had group goals that were working together. So I think it absolutely sets the stage for our students to return to school in person. For some of our students that struggle during the school day, one of the nice things that the summer program does is that it continues to build and maintain their stamina for being in school. One of the things that we have to think about in our return is that students haven't necessarily been in our school 5 full days over the past 18 months. And this program really kind of eased a lot of our students who might tend to struggle with that back into the program. So I think it absolutely set the stage well for us.
It was really good.
Should I hand it off to somebody else?
Yeah, I think Chris did a great job because some things are very similar to ID, but I think in particular our tutoring program over the summer is pretty rigorous, and our teachers actually have to kind of say what is the goal they're working on, what's the progress they're making. Every week parents actually get a little bit of a progress report, and so I did review a lot of those. It did seem like our work this summer was very successful. We also tried to identify our students that were in VTVLC last year, and I highly encourage those families to send the kiddos in, just so we can see where they're at, how did the year go, and some of them were just so excited to be back. So I think even regardless of how tutoring might have gone, just seeing them and them being very excited to come back, and I think the one little boy, Caden, was so excited to see me every day because he doesn't know who the principal is. And so that's just exciting that we start forming those relationships. Yeah, I thought it was great. It's really amazing the hustle and bustle over the summer. We're fortunate that a lot of our tutoring services happen in the white building, so we have 8 classrooms that we can use while work's kind of being done in the brick building. But yeah, it was a great program. It was my first summer with seeing it, so it was certainly great.
So I just want to add that in Franklin, some of our kids participate in the summer interest in learning, which is the Crossroads program, and leave from that through a tutoring, like Chris was saying. But we also have a lot of students that are old that choose only to do the one-to-one tutoring. And I have to tell you, I just had a post the other day, I was just reading the reports from the tutors, and every kid has a goal, what the target was for that summer tutoring, and what the progress was. And just this past week, each of those tutors had given those reports to the next year's teacher, so we can really plan accordingly for those kids at the start of school. And whatever you can do to not have that summer slide any year is a really good thing. But the reports that people did, I said to Coach, I have to send you one of these reports so you can just see how incredibly thorough this information is about kids. And again, I just really appreciate the teachers being able to do it, and the families taking the time to have their kids participate. And in that case, when they weren't in the summer program, they could transport them to school each day for that hour if they weren't in the summer program. So that's a big commitment on families' parts too. I love it. We actually have questions, and then it's exciting. Any other questions? Okay, Stephen, you get it back. You know you should never get in your life.
I'll remember for next time.
I know.
Thanks, everyone. All right, we're on to new business. We have a board goals presentation, information and action. We'll go to whether or not to adopt those, and I believe Terry's going to present this.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have a shared slide so people can see it. We're going to make this brief because I know that people are probably tired by now. And we have, this is the first step, and we have an action plan. So we'll accept those, everyone agrees. So thank you to Julie for starting this all up. But, so we're going to talk about the board and the district goals for the 21-22. I don't have any control of the goals.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to solve the problem.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and I think this quote is great that Julie shared with us about danger not flying and setting too high and failing, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our high. So we're trying to have aspirational goals here, and I think with our community we'll be able to do it. So I thought we'd start with the district goals, and this is what the board sees as priorities for our district this year. And there's other things going on, obviously, but these are the main priorities. That is, number one, and you can probably see that here for people that can't, the Mvsd will increase the overall achievement of all of our students so that outcomes will continue to improve in accordance with our Mvsd recovery plan and achievement gaps for children who struggle with flows. So we're definitely looking at that. And then the second one is that the Mvsd will improve post-secondary outcomes for students as measured by college enrollment, professional credential attainment, enrollment in apprenticeships, and successful employment after graduation. So we're going to start looking at some of those facts too, some of those statistics, that data. And three, the Mvsd will increase its retention of educational professional staff. Because the research that's been done shows that students thrive when they have some continuity, and we'd like to have that, as we are one of the lowest paying districts in the state. And we do have high turnover with a lot of them going to neighboring districts. So that's, next time when we talk about, we're going to talk about what this means going forward. But for now, it's just kind of an overview. And I thought it would help us, our group thought it would help if we show what last year's goals were too. And so last year, we still went, we had this overall student achievement, and we'll continue to improve achievement factual lessons. So that one is staying with us. We also had that we support the commitment to equity in a school free of systemic racism. And the last one was, we'll support the implementation of social emotional learning curriculum. And that has happened. So, okay, let's go to the board goals. So this is what the board wants to do as a body. And so this year, the board goals are focused on the board's, I'm going to read it here. Thank you. I got to make it bigger for me here. Or take off my glasses, I'm not sure which way.
I don't know. I don't think I can make it any
Thank you.
bigger.
I think I'll just keep looking over here. Okay, so the Mvsd school board will ensure policies and district goals are in place that reflect the values and priorities of the board. And two, the Missisquoi Valley School District board will increase its
Advocacy.
advocacy efforts regarding educational issues at the local and state level. And we will also develop strategies and expand opportunities to increase community engagement. And so tonight is probably a good thing for one of these goals to get started, which we hope to find community engagement when things are all the time, not just when there's a contentious issue. So we're glad that people came tonight to show us what we can do. So, okay, and then last year, our goals last year were that we were going to develop operating procedures, and for the superintendent and check annually. That's, I kind of combine those two, job description, operating procedures for all of us, and develop strategies for increasing community engagement. This is one that we struggle with, and hopefully we're going to get better at that. And then, so next, more to come, next steps. Our committee is still looking at this. We're going to try and put something together that talks about what we're committing to and what the impact will be, and how we're going to make sure that these are lived instead of just sitting or being on a nice piece of paper. So, thank you. And if anyone on the committee wants to add anything, that'd be great.
Thanks, Terry, for running through those. Could we go back to that? Sorry, Robert. Could we go back to the slide that shows the district goals? So the purpose of this, these, as you know, are the goals that we developed as a goals committee and then brought to the board during our board retreat. So we then want to bring them here to a public session and formally vote on adoption of those goals.
I've got it here. Do you want me to bring it?
I'd like them up on the screen so the camera has those while we vote on them.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll start with the
District goals.
district goals, yeah.
Slide 4, I believe.
All right, so at this time, I'll accept a motion to adopt the district goals for 2021-22.
I'll make it.
Motion from Toby. Any second? Jen is the second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or raising your hand. And, you got a hand up. Okay, so the motion carries 8-0. For the minutes, sorry, Chris signed off at 8:04. All right, and then we'll move to the board goals.
Ask a question about the district goals.
Sure.
I know that Chris mentioned the district goals. Are all the administrators comfortable with the district goals that we put in place?
We're all in favor. Okay, and now for the board goals. I'll accept the motion to adopt these board goals that were developed the same way. Toby is first. I have a second. Terry's the second. All right, any discussion? Board goals. Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the board goals, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Joanne, I didn't catch your vote.
There it is.
It's an aye, all right, and motion carries 8-0. So I want to thank the administrators. I know, we set the policy and you guys then have to implement that in your schools and with your staff, and they have to implement it further. So please don't be shy about asking the board for support where you may need it, and we're here to help, and thank you for your support through those as well. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Franklin Propane Award. Is this Laura?
I want to stand up.
Okay, so as Joyce stated, last meeting, the board approved a boiler upgrade and a conversion at the Franklin School. That project has started. It started just about 5 minutes after the meeting ended. So that is wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. He's been doing an amazing job orchestrating that at the start of school, and Joyce has been very accommodating to the vendors, and that's amazing. There were some follow-up questions in regards to the contract containing stating that we would own the tanks and buy the tanks outright at a cost of $5,500 a piece. We decided the contract was signed as it was approved by the board with that in mind, but I did follow up on those questions in regard to the pros and cons of owning or leasing. There are notes in the Google Drive in regards to the pricing that I solicited for propane, but also at the bottom you'll see some notes. Basically, schools own, in the state of Vermont, there's about a 50-50 balance between owning and leasing tanks. The tanks last about 20 to 40 years with no maintenance, and schools are not required to do an annual inspection. While that would probably still happen, it's not required by law as it is the fuel company owns the tank. And then we spoke to a couple different fuel companies, Fred's and AmeriGas, in a very lengthy interview with EEI, myself, and Stephen, and there will be no other fees assessed based on ownership. The other important thing to note is that obviously the fuel price goes down, and you can negotiate a much lower price if you own the tank versus releasing the tank. And so it is the recommendation of Stephen, myself, and Mike Davey from EEI that it is in the best interest of the school district to own the tanks, which is what we move forward with. Under
under that understanding, what I brought to you is the locked-in rates, well, on this I showed the lease as well, but locked-in rates for 20,000 gallons annual for the Franklin School District. In column 1, you'll see 5 different bids on the home price and then the leases in the next column. Some of the companies refuse to even provide a lease rate because it would be that much higher. So the recommendation is the one that is in Google Drive that is kind of darkened. That would be Fred's. There's some notes there about the location. They're from Derby. They have 4 offices. They're opening one in Richford. We did have a very lengthy interview with them. They are offering the lowest price at $1.55 a gallon. That is a 1-year lock-in rate. They are the only company to offer a 2-year lock-in rate. But after some forecasting considerations, that's not the recommendation. Prices are, going down, or forecasted to go down, so that wouldn't be the recommendation. There would be, I just wanted to draw your attention to the labor and response rate. So that would be the only additional charge. Say there was an emergency, Fred would charge $125 as a response rate if we needed them to come on nights or weekends. You can see the other prices there. I will say them for the camera since it's not on the screen. Suburban propane at $1.89, AmeriGas at $1.70, Fluence at $1.80, Bourne. There was some problems with communication or lack thereof. So there is no price for them, and then Fred's at $1.55.
All right, thanks, Laura. Any questions for Laura on this recommendation?
Joanne raised her hand.
Joanne, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm too late in the conversation. I was just hoping Julie and you and Laura could unmute. I think we would have understood her a little bit better, just for myself and Dawn. I did catch most of it, and I didn't have a chance to review what was in the folder, so I'm confident that I will probably go with the proposal. I was just trying to catch the attention a little bit earlier, but it's okay.
So on this, Joanne, I'd wonder if you'd like to recuse yourself from this one.
I can't make out what you're saying. Dennis, I'm sorry. That's why I was wondering if Laura turned on her unmuted and Julie maybe muted. I can hear that to be better.
Gotcha. I'm over next to Julie's now. The question was raised about whether you should recuse yourself on this particular issue because of your employment with one of the companies.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks, Joanne, but
we can still answer questions.
we still can answer your questions, and we will try to get whoever has the microphone to come stand next to Julie when possible.
Thank you, Joanne, because I'm having trouble following that too. My connection is not stable tonight. So
am I talking to this or this?
I just got bits and pieces of that.
Okay. Well. All right, can you hear me now, Joanne? Okay, so I did share some information about the owning versus leasing. And so we interviewed 2 different vendors. It was actually AmeriGas and Fred's, and we had a lot of discussion about the pros and cons of owning and leasing. And also, is that the prominent kind of, which is prominent in the state of Vermont for schools? It's 50% lease and own in the state of Vermont for schools. Tanks last 20 to 40 years, which I know you understand, with basically little to no maintenance, so there wouldn't be an anticipated high cost to the schools. Schools are not required to do an annual inspection as fuel companies are, and there basically would be no other fees assessed if we owned the tank, so the fuel companies would not hit us with additional fees for owning the tank versus if they lease it to us. We solicited rates from 5 different vendors. It was Suburban, Fred's, AmeriGas, Fluent, and Bourne. Suburban at $1.89, Fred's at $1.55, AmeriGas at $1.70, Fluent at $1.80, and Bourne was kind of non-responsive, or there was some problems with communication and them getting back to EEI. Those rates are significantly lower when you own the tank as opposed to when you lease. I'm sure you're aware of that as well. The only other thing I mentioned is that there is a labor response rate with the recommended vendor, which is Fred's at $1.55 a gallon, and that would be at $125 an hour if we did need them to come. But again, that's not something we see as being a real issue.
Okay, thank you. I can hear that very well. It's unfortunate that I had not a favorable experience with Fred's regarding deliveries in bad weather, and then turn around and charge to have to come back because it wasn't a regularly scheduled day. So I don't know how much service they provide to this area. When I was working with them, they were in Derby and Lindenville and Morrisville, I believe. But if they have good references, certainly the price is good. But I want our administrators or whoever is going to do the work, head of maintenance people with deliveries to be on top of it. Because, as I say, I had a very unfavorable experience.
So, Laura, I have a question. It notes that they're opening a Richford office. So that means they don't currently have a Richford office?
They don't currently, but I will tell you in regards to references, Stephen did reach out to Mvsd School District, who uses them and has been using them, and they had a very favorable reference with them. The office is being opened as we speak, was what we were told.
So Mvsd
Well, if they have other customers of significant size, like Mvsd, then that's a different variable. Because that means they have to come into the area. The problem is if they don't have a lot of customers in this area, that's where we run into problems. So I would say based on that, if Steve or somebody has heard that Mvsd is very satisfied, then we would probably be satisfied.
Yep, Joyce has a comment.
I don't know, Don, can you hear me? Don, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's not stable.
Don, I just wanted to say that the only experience we've had so far was positive because we were having our opening breakfast Monday morning and expecting to use our cafeteria, and our propane tank got pulled before it was supposed to, and so we were phone calling people on Sunday, and they were going to be at school Monday morning to bring us another tank. We were able to get our old one back quickly, but we were able to get a hold of them. Eric was fabulous with communication, and they were going to come right off on Monday morning. So that's the only thing we've had so far, but that was positive, so.
It's good. I mean, I'm not looking for the negative. I mean, and I think maybe if they're in this part, they're open an office and they have a large school district, then there's more incentive for them to do it. This was in a town with some residences, and to say it was not a happy experience for me, wasn't a happy experience for the other people living in that area. I got other complaints came to me. But, you know, I'm certainly willing to give a chance, and the price is significantly more than anybody else.
All right, at this time, I'll take a motion and we can have more discussion in that period, if that's all right.
I'll make the motion to accept Fred's bid of the $1.55 a gallon for propane.
Peter has made a motion to accept the bid of Fred's for $1.55 per gallon for 1 year. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Stephen is our second. Any discussion? Peter?
Laura, I see on here that 20,000 gallons annually is what we're quoted there. Just wondering how we came up with that number, as we don't use propane now. I'm sure there was an equation used to figure that out. And are we tied to that number? Is there penalties if we don't hit that number?
There actually wouldn't be a penalty this year sorry.
We are basically promising to spend that this year in that they're going to come and fill the tanks. And that's what the recommendation is when you put in a new system, they're actually going to come and fill the tank. So this year our fuel costs will be at least this amount.
Okay.
After that, it should go down, but it was based on an analysis by 3 different engineers that EEI works at as well as far as the size of the tanks, and so that's what we're doing. If we go over that, there will be a percentage increase per gallon after that, so we are not locked in over that. So if it's over 20,000, we will not be paying market, but we will be paying a percentage over this $1.55 based on the increase. Makes sense. We shouldn't go over it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the bid of Fred's for $1.55 for 1 year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it, the motion carries 7-0-1.
Should note that Joanne probably abstained.
Yes, Joanne abstained from that vote, I believe, so.
Just so it's in my
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is old business, new teacher hires. Julie?
The new teachers, the old business.
No, I don't necessarily want to get names. I'm having trouble. I just need to be able to read the names of the new teachers that we're hiring. My apologies. So we have a new MVU special educator, Jennifer Lambert. We have a new early childhood special educator, that's a .8. And we have a new school social worker for MVU, Melissa Gaudio, and we have an additional teacher at Highgate that will be hired to help decrease the incoming students we didn't expect. And that is, I'm going to say the name wrong, Steve Daggio. And I met with each of those teachers, and they're highly recommended by the principals as well as myself. So we look for a motion to accept.
Do we have almost a total staff now?
It's very close. We're almost there.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So we don't have that. And are these all budgeted positions?
Either budgeted or through the elementary and secondary education recovery grant.
Yeah, she just
Budgeted or through a grant, all right. I'll accept a motion to accept these new teacher hires as read. Terry's a first. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Toby's a second. Any discussion? Don.
Don, go ahead.
You're muted, Don. Julie, could you tell him he's muted?
No, I was going to say that, that's fine.
Just a second. All right. Thanks, Don. All right. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. The motion carries 8-0.
Can I ask a question before we leave this topic?
Sure. Go ahead, Peter.
Julie, and you don't have to have an answer tonight or ever, I guess, but I was just curious, read a lot of the new names of teachers coming in, and I noticed that we're getting teachers that went through our district, graduated from our schools. Just curious how many of those we have, like how many come through our program and come back and teach.
I don't have the answer to that. Some of our new teachers have brought that up as part of why they want to come and work for us. But I think that would be a really interesting question to get. I'd love to get the answer to that question for you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Jen?
Julie, has anybody as of today come forward to put application in for the ag position? And if not, is Mr. Maishi and Mr. Wild going to take that over until they can fill the position?
I'll have Jay, we have not had a candidate that has come forward that has been interviewed at this point. And I will be happy to have we're having to reschedule some of those classes. And I think Mr. Hartman spoke a little bit about that last meeting. But I can connect him with you if you have further questions too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, future agenda items. We have an Act 173 presentation and after-school program presentation. So we look forward to those. And future board meetings, the next scheduled meeting is September 7th, Tuesday at 6:30 at the MVU Library. At this time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that, can I just speak briefly?
Go ahead, Don.
Now, I appreciate you letting me participate tonight, even though I have a shaky connection, and hopefully Julie told you the reason I'm not there. Susan and I were in a pretty serious car accident last night.
We're sorry to hear that, Don. We hope that both of you recover quickly. All right, Peter?
I'd just like to state that there is a facilities meeting just prior to our next board meeting on the 7th. I believe it's at 5:30. So we'll be meeting before our regular meeting.
Is that also at MVU?
Is that at MVU as well?
It depended on how availability.
Okay, well, location to be determined. We'll get that warning out with the location ahead of time.
Devin, I just want to tell people in TV land especially, I was getting a lot of texts that they weren't able to get on during the public comment. So I apologize to all of you and to the public who thought I was doing something not related to or not listening attentively. I was, but I was also trying to field inquiries on how that they weren't being able to log it. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of my apparent distraction with my screen.
All right. Thank you, Toby. We appreciate you fielding all those things. I hope you were able to get some folks logged in.
Yeah, but you have a question on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just here for that exact reason Toby probably knows, because it was on mine. So I was here to video, like, I do home with my children right now, but like this is like an ongoing issue for Swanton, so if you guys can try to maybe log in on your phone, whoever's running the show. Just like log in, because if you can't log in on your phone, that tells you that nobody else can. So a lot of people are like watching my phone guys, so yeah, that was my only request. And I apologize for all of that today, that's a little while.
All right, sorry about that, Jess.
No,
And
it's okay.
could you state your name for us?
Jessica Zitman.
Thanks. We'll definitely get on that because we don't want technology to be an obstacle.
So it's kind of like people are getting angry at us because like my friends are here, so.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? So
Yeah.
you go to the link, and what
Correct.
happens?
Okay, so if you go into the link, it'll then bring you into, the online thing, but then it just says waiting for people to accept you. So I don't know if it's on this end, like if people aren't accepting us in, but if you guys set it up to the point that you can just get it, you can do that too.
All right, we'll certainly look at that.
That's good to know.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I backtrack on a couple of questions? Seven? Sorry, I know. Hey, at least I'm talking. Julie, I just want to re-question, because I know I asked the question last week, or last meeting, excuse me. So with us hitting a certain percentage of vaccinated students, then I thought all students could take off their masks, correct?
That's what the guidance says.
Okay.
And that if, let's use MVU as an example.
So we can hear
probably
their answer.
Also, we still don't know the way in which they're going to have us find out what the vaccine rate is, which is why I didn't put that in the guidance, because I didn't want it to be confusing, because we don't really. They're going to tell us this week maybe. But should 80% of students be that are eligible for a vaccine in a school building be vaccinated, then everyone can take their mask off.
Okay. I just,
That's the guidance.
that's good clarification. I just wanted to clarify, because this seems to be a bit of a big question tonight. And then one more question, Betty. Aren't you glad I'm back? Would it be, I understand that, parents want to be heard, I get it. We're all parents, we all want to be heard. But would it be like a big issue if we maybe did send a survey around to parents, like, do you plan on getting your children vaccinated? Or what are your thoughts on having your child wear a mask? Does it cause an issue? Just so we can kind of get a little consensus, and then they are being heard.
All right, thank you, Jen. That's a good question. I think probably one that we'll follow up with offline. All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Peter
Second.
is first, Jen is the second. It's too late, Jen. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you. We are adjourned at 9:02.